You might think that given the numbers of migrants illegally crossing the English Channel, that the Home Office would be pulling out all the stops to return those who unlawfully make it here. But the pressure group Migration Watch has found figures which show that the Home Office has in fact cut its budget for illegal migration enforcement by some £40 million. The number of officials responsible for enforcing illegal migration has fallen by some, well, getting on for almost 300. Well, joining me, the chairman of Migration Watch UK, that's Alp Mehmet. Alp, thanks so much for coming. I appreciate it very much indeed. On an obvious level, you would think, as the news bulletins are dominated by daily pictures of migrants illegally arriving on British beaches, huge political pressure, not just on Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, but Boris Johnson as well. The last thing they would do is cut pennies in the grand scheme of government spending from their Home Office enforcement budget.
Well, the interesting thing is that they've actually increased the amount being spent on the border force. The numbers there have gone up. While they've done that, the numbers actually coming across the channel have grown exponentially. It seems that there are more border force officials now actually in the process of helping people across the channel. But the important thing is that people are coming here because they can and because they know that having arrived and got foothold here, there's very little likelihood of their being returned. And that's where this enforcement issue comes into focus, because the numbers of people now being identified as not having any right to be here, of being here illegally, has plummeted. The number of people being returned has plummeted. There's very little enforcement going on, largely because the opposition managed to weaponise Windrush. It's just not happening in the way that it should in order to deter people from coming here.
I mean, presumably when we see high-profile incidents like the one, was it a couple of months ago, there was a jet that was going to take 50 Jamaican-born, I think they were still Jamaican citizens who'd committed serious offences that landed them in prison for more than 12 months, back to Jamaica. There were last-minute appeals from lawyers in the event. Only 7 villains were sent back to Jamaica, and these were people who'd committed offences like murder and rape. But that was a high-profile instance involving fairly high-profile criminals. Presumably, on a much lower level, more prosaic level, there's a process of administration which is just going incredibly slowly. People are lost from the system. There's bungling. There's not enough application by people who are looking at applications.
That's part of the problem, of course it is. It's a huge problem. Frankly, that was always a problem since the days when I was an immigration official, occasionally working at the Home Office. But the fact is that it's the decisions that are being not only delayed but taken that I think are on the whole a little overly generous in not really refusing people who should be refused, in the same way that those crossing the channel who are entering and making their way illegally, none. This year, not one has been sent back. Why wouldn't they attempt to come here, that being the case?
Aren't they just beneficiaries of this strange interregnum that we find ourselves in before the new Border Act becomes law, and then people who land on those beaches in Dover will potentially face 4 years, up to 4 years in prison? Are we just in this little holding pattern before these new legal changes introduced by Priti Patel start to bite?
Colin, if that ever happens, that anyone coming across the channel in a small dinghy finds himself or herself in jail for 4 years, I'll come here, stand here with my head in shame and apologise. It just will not happen.
If you come an hour early, you can sit with Nigel, he'll give you a drink.
I will do that.
Alp Mehmet, thanks very much indeed. Thanks a lot.